wasn't for these young dancers out of Detroit. Let me tell you.
Well, I mean, you can get me into a lot of stuff by mentioning that ballet is a part of the story that you're telling. As a matter of fact, I did an interview with Maggie Shipstead a long time ago that I should probably make into a Saturday podcast, seeing as I haven't done a Saturday podcast in like 2 weeks, where she wrote a novel called Astonish Me. And it's awesome. I really love it. And then I remember how much I enjoyed watching Center Stage. And I tried to do whatever the dark drama ballet deal is on like Amazon for free. And I was like, it's a little too far in one direction for me, guys. Like, y'all got to ratchet this one down just a little bit. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, oh, Save the Last Dance. Like, we pretend like that movie never happened. That's just me. That's just me. But I think I might actually give that a read because I'm also trying to do a lot of Misty research here of late. And, you know, we also got the Tall Chief sisters that are from, you know, Pawhuska. So I don't know what it is about ballet that I enjoy because it's certainly not. I can't just be like I'm a ballet aficionado because I'm not. But I do.
Do you like dance?
No, right? And that's what's weird. Like, I don't like dancing. I don't like reading about the rudiments of dancing. Like I took history of dance at TU, and it was all I could do to write 800 words about Bill T. Jones and not just be like, I would rather be doing anything else. I mean, I got a B in that class, and I'm happy about it, but like, nah, man. But if you tell me a story that has to do with dancers, I'm there for it because I think what I enjoy is kind of like in football or baseball or any sport. It's as much to me about the physical exertion and the commitment to rote practice because I'm a rote practice guy, right? Thousands of reps. That's how you get good. Forget the 10,000 hours. I think this warped everybody's thinking. But things that require intense, over-the-top practice, I'm here for. So I'll read about swimmers, right? I'll read about some golfers. But the dudes that just wake up and can do stuff only kind of get me so far, right? I'm into the superhero origin story. So if you're going to tell me about how Wolverine became Wolverine, I'm here for it. If you're going to tell me stories about Wolverine being Wolverine, I'm only here for it if I was here for the origin. So I guess that's how a lot of people feel about their favorite garage bands. It's like, no, I don't particularly like, well, by example, I don't particularly like All American Rejects, but I was here when they became a thing. And I enjoy knowing that, so I'll listen to their music. And it means something different to me than it does anybody else. I'm sure you have the same experience.
Well, I'd say that when you say that you're into this, like the grind. So I would say that if you're watching Rocky, you could kind of sort of care less about the fight against Apollo or Mr. T or whatever. It's more so like give me those training montages.
Mm-hmm.
Give me those times outside of the gym where it's like I don't know if I have the time or the money or the gumption to be able to achieve this dream. I like you need to be able to see the accumulation of effort into a dream achieved. Like that's not to say that you don't like a good story about a freak athlete. That's a once in a generation, but that can't be the story. Is that you're just good, right? It has to be something almost completely unrelated to being good. It has to be being inside the industry where you have to be good, right?
Yeah, and
You know,
go ahead,
one more thing. One more
please,
thing.
please.
So, like when you say like you weren't into All American Rejects, you sound like the type of person that is very sincere when they say, "I liked them before they were good. I liked them before they were big. I liked them before they were cool." Because all that stuff before they were cool is watching the garage band shows, watching the getting the album that was taped in somebody's bedroom. It's it's all the like I'm here along for the journey uphill till as we reach whatever climax that being cool or big or famous is.
So watch this.
Okay.
That's how college football works for me. the reason that I really enjoy college football is because I know the stories of the high school football players when they are 8th graders, 9th graders, all the way up, and less about them being pieces of meat that are ranked and jumped in rankings and have 4 stars or 5 stars. And to that degree, the same thing is true of college football coaches, right? You'll hear people tell you stories about these teams from way back when because they mean something different to them. And then it helps that, in 1985, Oklahoma won a national championship. But if you don't know that Ricky Dixon is a true freshman on that team and how he ended up at Oklahoma, it probably doesn't mean the same thing to you. Like, Ricky Dixon was not supposed to be at OU. He was not being recruited heavily by OU, and Barry Switzer saw him play. He was undersized, but he knew where the ball was. And Switzer told his DB coach to go get him, and we'll see if it works. And Ricky Dixon is, quite honestly, the greatest defensive back Oklahoma has ever produced. And I'm including Roy Williams and Derek Strait in that conversation, along with Darrell Royal, who somehow had like 18 interceptions back before they were actually like throwing the ball. And then you go look at tape of around the period when Darrell K. Royal was playing football. You're like, I don't know if that's an interception because it looks like a fumble. It looks like they just fumbled forward in the air, because you'll look at some of these throws and you'll be like, how?
And you know what? That's what he thought too.
That's where I'm at, right? So, like, when I talk about basketball, baseball, whatever, I'm always interested in where these kids were in high school and what they were doing in high school, and to a degree, what they were doing before, but more so their freshman or sophomore years. Because, like, I'm very fond of saying, like, Pat Mahomes is from White House, Texas, which was a plantation, because, the colors mean something different to anybody that's not paying attention. White House, Texas, mostly white town or all white town. Greenwoods, the Redbirds, reds, browns, greens, those are welcoming places for black folks. The places with white in the name, historically not so, right? And then I look at places like Alabama and how football has become a part of the ecosystem, and the entire state is dependent on how good that team is or isn't, which is why everybody who knows from Alabama football will tell you, as soon as Nick Saban is not able to do this anymore, we will be quick. There will be no long goodbye. It will be very quick, fast, and in a hurry. And you know what? Nick Saban is probably going to be the first person to tell you such a thing. Be like, nope, can't do it anymore. Which is why I think right now is really interesting, because looking at Bill Connelly's SP+, Nick Saban's defense this year in 2020 is on par with Oklahoma's defense in 2018. And Nick Saban's offense is on par with Oklahoma's offense in 2018. So they are ridiculously good moving the ball, and they are ridiculously bad at stopping people from moving the ball. And this is after pitching a shutout in the second half against Georgia. Game they put up 564 yards, 41 points. And get this, Mac Jones, who Bama fans swear to me is nicknamed Mac 10, I swear he doesn't answer to that. There's no way he answers to that.
I've actually, this is now my public shame. I've never thought about that as a nickname.
Yeah, because it's Mac Jones.
I like it.
Yeah, but it's Mac, ooh. But that dude has thrown for 400 yards in his last 3 games, right? Like, come on. And he's completing damn near 78% of his passes. Like, what? Because, like, Mac Jones, put it another way, is having a better start to the season, or better start to his career as a starter, than Tua Tagovailoa. That's how good he has been. And on the other hand, Patrick Surtain Jr., Dylan Moses, Christian Barmore, they can't stop nobody. Like, we stopped Georgia. You stopped a walk-on quarterback. That's who you stopped. You stopped Stetson Bennett, who I swear to God rolled to his right, saw a bunch of white jerseys, and threw it to a bunch of white jerseys when red jerseys were streaking down the field. Like, Stetson Bennett realized in the second half against Alabama that he had a 4-point lead against Alabama, and ain't no way in the world that Stetson Bennett was supposed to have no 4-point lead against Alabama. You might say that it was a false positive. So I'm fascinated to see how Nick Saban is doing this because, like, Saban is a defensive coordinator. Matter of fact, another stat that was circulating around Glass Cannon. Nick Saban, for all of this, Katy Perry came out yesterday wearing an Alabama jersey, rooting for Alabama. Why is this particularly important to me? Well, it's because I'm an Oklahoma fan. And being an Oklahoma fan, I remember that the Sooners were 4-0, headed to Amon G. Carter, like they are this week, to play Texas Christian. Trevor Knight starting quarterback. Katy Perry gets on College Game Day that morning and says, Trevor Knight, call me.
Oh, I remember that.
And Oklahoma got beat 37-33, finished the season 8-5. Clemson announces itself to the world over Oklahoma's dead body in the Sweatpants Bowl. Trevor Knight threw for 103 yards in that game. Clemson won 40-6 with Brent Venables on the sideline going, you remember you ran me off. You ran me off so that this offense could put 40 up on you. And I stopped y'all from scoring more than 6. It's a watershed moment for me personally. And then taking into account that Katy Perry is on the Alabama train as their 4-0, I'm here for the Roll Damn Tide. I'm here for this. So I want to know what Nick Saban looks like going into this week. Do you think that he's getting grayer or he's getting nastier?
Oh, he's absolutely getting grayer. My man's racking up the years every single snap. Because Nick Saban has an expectation of what his defenses are supposed to look like. He's classically been somebody that keeps the yards down, keeps the points down. And this year, I have a hard time giving the hot take that Alabama's defense is bad because what Ole Miss did against them. I'm saying, but what Ole Miss did against Alabama, I'm going to say Lane Kiffin was always going to do that.
Okay.
Whether this was a normal year or if we had double plague, it was always going to be 63-48. For the rest of his games, he's like, this is an Alabama team, at least for its defense, that has gone back in time. Remember the good old years of 2008, when Alabama was a team that was just starting to become a power, right? Just somebody that was going to be there every single year before people got tired of them. They were known as a team that was an excellent second half team, right? If you have, no matter what it looked like in the first half, in the second half, it's going to be Alabama 4 scores, you field goal. That's it. That's what they're doing this year. It's one half of the game that they're playing. They're pitching practically a shutout, or the game is way out of hand. Any points that are put on the board by the opposing team are just negligible, or they treat them like Georgia, which give them nothing. They play the first half, and it's kind of a nail biter. And Georgia's like, I couldn't pee a drop if they wanted to. So, and now they're going into, like, look at the rest of their schedule. It's Tennessee, Mississippi State, LSU, and after that, it's all right. I'll give Kentucky a chance. They've shown that they can. No. See, I like that. That's exactly the response that I wanted. And then you have Auburn and Arkansas. I don't see where we get to say, man, that defense truly looks bad, and they were tested.
To your point, though, like, when did Oklahoma's defense truly look bad and they were tested in 2018? You can make the argument that was Texas, right, where they took an L, right, 48-45. But, like, here's what vexes me about the Alabama situation today. You mentioned that Lane Kiffin was always going to put up 48 on Alabama. We can say double plague because revenge is more powerful than double plague. You fired me after I won the college football playoff because I admittedly called some plays that we didn't practice during the week, but you fired me and told me to take this job at Florida Atlantic and denied me the opportunity to call the national championship game against Clemson in 2016. I still feel some kind of way about that if I'm Lane Kiffin. Got that. However, you have Ole Miss and Fayetteville at Donald W. Reynolds. Arkansas has not beaten anybody in the SEC in Fayetteville. in 4 damn years. And then you get beat by Arkansas the week after you put up 48 on Alabama in a game where Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions. Still, this is my favorite stat. There were 6 pick sixes on Saturday. Arkansas picked off 6 Matt Corral passes, and Arkansas picked off all of 6 interceptions in 2019 alone. Chad Morris told everybody when they were getting that L, especially against North Texas, this is not an overnight fix. And Sam Pittman said, yes, it is. Like, what? And then insult to injury. Arkansas got robbed, got straight shafted in the game against Auburn. They should have won. We all know it, right? And yet Auburn goes out against South Carolina and gets hit in the skull with this big brick. Chad Morris takes an L as Arkansas gets a W. And now Arkansas is a better football team, for my money, than Auburn. And Auburn was ranked 15th in the country, 13th when they played Arkansas. Arkansas still can't get no votes. Meanwhile, the SEC West is an absolute trash fire after Alabama. So it goes like Alabama, and then if we're doing power rankings, you could have Arkansas above Texas A&M, or you could have Texas A&M. Just if you haven't watched enough Arkansas, I can see how you could do that. But then you're talking about what? Ole Miss over LSU? And then Auburn. Like, that's what it is right now. It's wild.
Did we not predict that? Like, once again, whether it was normal year double play, did we not predict that the SEC West this year was going to be a whole bunch of teams that were
Mississippi State? I forgot about them.
Going to go
My
500? Bad. Yeah, like the SEC West was always going to be like this. Like, I don't want to say that the SEC West is a trash fire. It's only a trash fire because of. Okay, let me back up off that. So you brought up
it is a trash fire. Can't nobody play no defense.
I need to know how people understand people understand what it means to be a good team or bad team or to be ranked, because I see people arguing like this team was ranked this high on this poll. Like, that poll is just a big old Rorschach test for you. Like, it almost doesn't mean anything. I bring that up because of Ohio State sneaking in above teams that are undefeated and have actually played football. None of that joint matters at all whatsoever. So, but back to SEC West. They're all, they all recruited from talent-rich areas. They got squads, but they just all beating each other. And is that not what we wanted? Is that not what we wanted?
Okay.
You said, I want to see Arkansas, and I had the man that they got head coach is somebody that I'm really looking forward to looking up to. Oh, did you see Mike Leach? Oh, he's about to he gave a team the points. I cannot wait to see the revenge game that Lane Kiffin revisits upon Nick Saban, and it was good. He lost. The only team out there that's in the SEC West that is good is Alabama. Yes?
All right, so I've been having a very good time giving LSU fans all the smoke in the world, because for 6 solid months, all they have done is shown up to tell me off. And now, y'all are 3 losses away from catching the 5 I told you would catch in a normal season. And now with this SEC-only schedule, you can count on Vanderbilt, and only Vanderbilt, to give you a W, because Missouri said, no, you're going to get this L. And on top of all of that, right, it's that LSU is young. It's not that they suck, right? And that was kind of the point. You lose 34 players off of a team, you're going to suck. That's just what it is. But on the other side, there's a great argument for Kentucky being the second best defensive team in the entire conference. And I keep looking at Mark Stoops going, yeah, man, just recruit a quarterback. Just get a. I mean, I love Terry Wilson. I think that he's cool, right? Coming from Dell City. But damn it, man. All that dude had to do was land one of them kids from Georgia. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, maybe get you a Harrison Bailey who's sitting on the bench over there at Tennessee. Sam Howell goes from Florida State to North Carolina. You could have gone and got Chase Bryce. He ends up at Duke. Like, I'm looking at Kentucky going, y'all should be way better at this thing called football, because I keep bringing this up. People keep laughing at me. Kentucky played 8 games without a starting quarterback. Eight games without a starting quarterback. They ran Wildcat with a wide receiver who was drafted by the Raiders as a running back because of how he finished the season. Like, Lynn Bowden is that dude, but like, they beat Virginia Tech in the Belk Bowl playing Wildcat quarterback football. Like, on some real Class 2A stuff, on some real Millwood stuff, they just went out there and took it. Meanwhile, Georgia, probably the best defensive team in the SEC. Florida can't stop anybody, but, you know, they're playing Oklahoma football like Alabama's playing Oklahoma football. Missouri, I don't know who they are, but I know that they got this true freshman in Connor Bazelak who cooked Bo Pelini and forever and ever gets to say he cooked Bo Pelini. Do you remember when you and I used to look at each other and be like, who's going to cook Bo Pelini?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You remember when Bo Pelini used to be that dude? It's like, oh, Bo Pelini coached defense? Really bringing the I'm really excited about these new black shirts.
But they were good. Like, they were good, though. Like, they were good.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody's saying they wouldn't like to have Bo Pelini as a defensive coordinator. It's just that maybe Bo Pelini is not as. This is weird. I don't want to say Bo Pelini's not as good as he was. He probably is. Football's better than Bo Pelini is right now.
Wait. I think Bo Pelini deserves the same benefit of the doubt that you give Mike Stoops. Because Mike Stoops left the Big 12, came back, and found that there was a whole new Big 12 and never adjusted. Bo Pelini left the SEC in 2007. Okay? He went to the damn Big 12 and then got bounced after doing nothing but win, just not win enough on some real Jim Caldwell stuff, to Youngstown State where they're, really good. And then after being really good at FCS, Ed Orgeron loses Dave Aranda to Baylor, who we got to talk about because, I don't know if Baylor's ever going to get to play football ever again, at least as long as we got COVID-19, which seems to be in perpetuity. Instead of going to go get another defense coordinator, somebody good. Nah. This man don't go get Glenn Schumann from LSU. He don't go get Dan Lanning from Georgia to pay him more money than Kirby's going to pay him. He doesn't convince Mike Elko to dump Jimbo Fish and come to LSU. He doesn't get Kevin Steele from Auburn. He doesn't say, hey, Brent Venables, who's the best defensive coordinator in the country, and go do what and go get him like Mac Brown did with Lincoln Riley and offensive coordinators. Nah, this man go get Bo Pelini because all we do in media and in coaching is hire retreads. That's what we do. I can't stand this.
That was a fraternity of coaching.
Well, but there's also
within your network.
But it's also media, right? There's a dude that's gonna go to work at the Fan in New York who just got out the pen.
WFAN?
That
one?
Just got out the pen. He just got out the pen, and they gonna put him on the radio. He went to the pen while he was on the radio. He got out the pen. They say, you want a job. They're going to put him back on the radio. Yo, not for nothing, man. But I go to the pen. Ain't nobody going to give me no job. Right? That's not what you going to do. And more than that, I look around at all the dudes that are getting jobs. I'm like, wasn't that dude washed? The only dude that hasn't got a job that I know was washed is Jay Mariotti. You remember when he used to actually be about something on Around the Horn? And then, I think what happened to him is what happened to a lot of people. You just get old, right? It's fine, whatever. But, I ain't heard from him. Ain't nobody heard from him. He just disappeared off the face of the planet. It's a real cool trick, provided he did that on purpose.
Yeah, sometimes, like I told you, it's once you do a cool thing, the clock starts ticking. Sometimes you got sauce, and it's only good for this period of time.
And I'm looking around at some of the dudes that I'm working on another project, right? And I was talking to another person that is helping me with this project. And he's like, yo, man, this dude on TV. How this dude end up on TV? I'm like, it ain't what you know, dog. It's never what you know. It's never what you know. And yet Bo Pelini thought he could run a 4.3 in the SEC West in 2020. If Nick Saban can't run a 4.3, if Kirby Smart can't run a 3.4, what the hell makes you think you get to run a 4.3? What in God's good name let you be the one man that gets to run a Sam linebacker out there where a nickel safety's supposed to be.
You don't understand. The defense is flexible. You're looking at these three linebackers like the actual linebackers, but really they're safeties, they're bandits, they're stars, right? They can rush the passer, they can cover the flats, and if you need them to go man, they can do it. They are anything and everything that you want on the field all at one time. Because you gotta combat these high-powered offenses.
Coach said, provided we don't cast ourselves, I'm gonna need you to find somebody that has a king BS speech pattern. Because you out here with this
4-2-5,
with this positionless football,
a 50 front.
You can't run no 50.
We are dime.
We running a 50 front with what?
Whenever we want to throw a suicide blitz like it's NFL blitz,
then
do that.
Call it Todd Grantham. Call him Todd Grantham.
All we got to do is just look to the sidelines.
Yeah, we got to interrupt the workflow in the head to respond to the super chat. Clemson fan here. What do you think about people that say Clemson don't play anybody, should not be in the playoffs? I think that we've been saying that for 3 years, and every year Clemson shows up and hands somebody their head. So, like, I'm not saying it, and I don't think people I think people that are saying it are these people that we are talking about who don't work anymore. Like, that's, like, I was actually having a conversation with a former NFL player, friend of mine, and he was trying to tell me that people are saying that LSU is not talented, and people are saying that, you know, LSU is just bad. And I'm like, hey, show me who's saying that. Show me who is saying that LSU isn't talented. And he couldn't tell me because it's a lazy take.
Yeah, we'll say they're right.
Huh?
We'll say they're bad all day, right?
Right, but they're talented.
Yeah, but it's foolish to say that they're not talented.
Right, and that's what I was making the point about. Is like, that's a lazy take. It's like the takes about Cam Newton that are dated by 5 years. You haven't actually done your homework. You actually haven't studied this. And every time I get hit with one of these opinions, I'm going to destroy it. Like, Ron, I had this thought earlier this morning. I have reached the suffers no fools stage of black manhood. Okay? Like, I used to actually wonder, like, why my old man and the other black men who helped raise me were so surly and pissed all the time. I don't wonder anymore. You know? Like, I just walk around mugging and pissed. Because y'all didn't do your homework and you didn't actually do the work of asking me a good question. You asked me a Googleable question. Don't ask me nothing you can Google. Got another super chat in here you need to get to. Oscar Proud asked, can you explain your intro? Also, big fan. It'd be sick to get a follow. Joe Benson on Twitter a couple years ago. We'll see about the follow. I'm not really in that business like I used to be anymore because Twitter's become a very fraught place for me, but I appreciate it, Oscar, and I'll give it a
What do you ask?
For me to follow him on Twitter. But his first question is, can I explain the intro? So the quick answer is I started doing this show on a piece of cardio equipment called a step mill. And from there, we grew to whatever this is today. So you can go back into the channel library and you can see those videos where I'm on a piece of cardio equipment holding my phone in front of my face. And that's how we did the show. So I would say that I'm back on the step mill, and now I say I'm not on the step mill, and that's the long and the short of that. Got another super chat. Love the show, and yeah, I should not worry about what people say on Facebook. Keep it up, good work. I appreciate that, man. Like, people don't actually want to hear the facts that you're going to spit to them about why Clemson is legitimate even in the ACC. They just want to argue. It's a bad faith argument. It's one of the reasons why I mentioned that Twitter's so fraught. There's a bunch of people that just want to troll. That's it, right? They just want to give you a hard time. So I think it's Bomani that actually said this on his podcast. It's performative or it's informative, and you need to know which one you are doing on the tweets. Is it performative or is it informative? And if it's performative, you need to ask for what and for how. Man, super chat's rolling in. Cole Bermudez? I hope so, Cole. It's my bad if I mess it up. Clemson did not hand anybody their heads this past year. 6-point win hanging on a blown play against a team with an injured quarterback. RB not handing them their head. Thank you. I disagree. So if you want to pick on the Texas A&M game, fine, if that's what you want to do. But I watched the Wake Forest game with store-brand Cam Newton. Every time we think that Notre Dame was going to give them an opportunity, they turn out to just beat the Indy that we all think that they are. I mean, if you're putting this out there in front of a Fiesta Bowl Ohio State thing, that's fine. But they gave them a game. Like, they won the game. And you want to talk about an injured quarterback, like, who doesn't have an injured quarterback? Are we going to make excuses for everybody that's got injuries? Because the whole point of this discussion, the whole point of that is how deep are you? Like, that's why Ohio State would get into the playoff right now if they win 4 in a row. Because we know that they are deeper than everybody else, and it's an invitational. You know, it's not automatic qualifiers like I think it should be. I don't think your argument has merit here because they did hand Alabama their head in the 2018 national championship. They did that. It is the most demoralizing defeat that Nick Saban has ever suffered, and it was to Clemson. And Trevor Lawrence, and Dabo Swinney, and Tony Elliott, and Brent Venables. Like, why is that your opinion? Like, I don't get it. It just, Ron, I put that to you. Like, what is it that Clemson has shown for them not to be a playoff team?
Well, I'm not entirely unempathetic with my man's question. Like, okay. I also believe that Clemson ain't play nobody. I particularly believe that last year, where they think that they rolled over a conference that could not really give them a game. And then they showed up in the playoffs and they were just as good as they've always been. Like, just because you don't play anybody truly does not mean that you're not that good.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just means that your conference is either down or you've made the conference redundant. Like, that's kind of where Clemson kind of sort of lives right now. They are that good. They do not play anybody. So, and you better hope that by the time you get to the playoffs, you have a plan to beat them.
My comp here is LSU's 2019 season so spectacular because the SEC is so spectacular, or because LSU was so spectacular? Because if Clemson would have beaten LSU, we don't make this argument about LSU. We make it about Clemson. Right? Because Clemson would still be riding a 30-plus win streak and be heading toward that 47 straight if they'd have beat LSU. That's another thing that I think gets lost in here. Like, this is fresh off of them hanging 73 on Georgia Tech's skull. Right? Like, yeesh. I mean, I keep drotting this out there because, you know, the numbers are just fascinating to me. Clemson put up 73 on Georgia Tech, beat them 73-62. It's a 62-point differential, or 62. 64 point. Damn it, I can't do math now. What's 7 minus 73? 64. 66. 66! I write for a living. Shut up. Arkansas
You don't do math and you don't dance.
Nah, man, I do this. I do this. Arkansas has held the last 3 teams it's faced to 65 points total. Georgia Tech gave up a differential of 66. And then, my favorite, Alabama allowed 72 points to be scored in the 6 quarters leading up to the second half of Georgia. And then they decided to put the clamps down, right? Because, 48 plus 24 that they'd given up. So it's just wild. Another super chat. They were rolling in today. From 2015 to 2019, the ACC had a winning record against the SEC. And now the SEC is Big 12 with 2 Texas Christians. The ACC is on the rise. Watch out. I mean, I was with you until Florida State hung an L on your man's number 5 North Carolina. I was with you until the same Miami team that whooped Louisville, got the head rung by Clemson. I was with you until that same Louisville team that got their head rung. The ACC is that good. And that's now that even this odd year where you get to count Notre Dame. You know, it's just Clemson. You could talk about the win-loss records across conferences, but nobody cares. That's the thing that I find to be most infuriating about the bowl schedules. The Big 12 be like, yeah, well, we beat the SEC in most bowl games. So? Ain't but one team representing the college football playoff. One. That's why I get frustrated when people say the Big 12 in the college football playoff. It ain't the Big 12. It's just Oklahoma. That's it. So when you make that point about where Clemson lives, where a conference might be redundant, That is where Oklahoma has lived for 5 years. They just don't have the national championships to show for it.
I was gonna say, like, and looking at it through that lens, so we look at the Big Ten. It's like, who is the Big Ten? It's Ohio State. Who is the Big 12? It's Oklahoma. Who is the ACC? It's Clemson. Who is the SEC? All right, so I guess you can make an argument between Alabama, and then sometimes it could be Georgia, and sometimes Florida sneaks in there, and every now and then Auburn looks good. LSU just won a national champ. That's kind of where this whole, like, the SEC is better than every other conferences, because the other conferences, I'm not even talking about the Pac-12 right now, but ACC, Big 12, Big 10 are led by a singular halo product, while the SEC is not quite, and they haven't been for the past few years.
And this also just goes to my point about a 16-team playoff. They do 24 in the FCS, but I'll settle for 16 with automatic qualifiers from the conferences so that the conferences don't become redundant, one. And two, because it ain't going to change the outcome, right? Like, Central Florida would have loved to have been a participant in the college football playoff. They would have probably got their head wrung, but they didn't, so they get to count themselves as national champs. You look at the FCS, it's the same teams in the national championship game each year, right? San Diego continues to win the Pioneer League. They make it into the playoff on that automatic qualification, and then they get their head wrung in the second round, right? Meanwhile, North Dakota State just reels off national champions, and somebody tells me that it's going to be really ridiculously lopsided. I'm going, of course it is. But now everybody gets to say they got a shot. Dang, y'all rolling. This is Madison Bandman. What do you got? With the recent future pickups that Nebraska has coming, how long do you think it will take Nebraska is playing like a top 25 team again? 2 years, but I thought Scott Frost in year 2 was going to be good, and he wasn't. I mean, they were a field goal away from being bowl eligible last year. They're bowl eligible this year, like everybody else, right? But they're not going to be any good. One, because, like, Adrian Martinez is not that dude. Like, all right, Ron, are you familiar with Adrian Martinez's story at Nebraska? Okay.
I'm not.
So Adrian Martinez showed up at Nebraska 2018, came on the scene, threw for over 3 bills against Colorado. Colorado was like, yo, this dude is the future. And everybody else thought that dude was the future. He ain't been that good since. Now he's in a quarterback competition with a dude named Luke McCaffrey. They haven't named a starter going into the Ohio State game, which means they're going to get their head wrung. I don't give them a chance in this. They're already 21.5-point dogs, but now they got a quarterback controversy whether they want one or not. But they named Adrian Martinez a captain. Okay? They also got a walk-on, Kurt Warner's kid, Caden, who's a captain. Now, if it wasn't Kurt Warner's kid, we would not care. But a walk-on as your captain, he better be one hell of a great walk-on. And this dude had a blown hamstring last year and wasn't really that good. You lost J.D. Spielman to Texas Christian. You better start Savion Morrison at tailback because you lost Marcus Washington. Like, there's no reason to believe that Nebraska is going to be good because they can't recruit with Ohio State. They can't recruit with Penn State. They can't recruit in Michigan. Hell, they can't recruit with Minnesota right now. So as much as I want Nebraska to be worth a damn, specifically for next year when they play Oklahoma and the year after that when they play Oklahoma, it ain't in the cards. Like, Nebraska is becoming Arkansas. And Arkansas is finally coming out of their spot. Yo, man, the Super Chats are just taking over today. Do we have a coach?
Let's get it.
Right. This is Prince Lunatic. All right, dog. That's the last time I'm going to call you that. Do we have a coaching drought in college football with programs like USC, Texas, and Florida State? Or do these programs evaluate coaching talent poorly? All right, so Florida State has Mike Norvell in year 1. It hadn't been going well, and then he got a top 5 win. We could call UNC the softest number 5 in the last 25 years. It's still a top 5 win, and it's still something that Willie Taggart didn't get done. Would Willie Taggart have gotten it done this year? Maybe. I give him a better shot than I give Chad Morris at Arkansas. But at Texas, look, it might be Texas because this point has been made, and I'll continue to make it. Everybody expects Texas to be good, and yet they're not consistently good. Like, 7 outright conference championships in 40 years, 2 national titles in 40 years. What says Texas is supposed to be good? And then we have good coaches that show up to Texas and turn out to be crappy. Like, Charlie Strong was great at Louisville, gets to Texas, turns to crap. Tom Herman goes, like 12-1, 9-3 at Houston, and then turns into crap at Texas, right? The only dude to actually perform to the level that people expected him to perform was Mac Brown, coming from North Carolina.
And he turned to crap.
Right. Quickly, like almost a player. You had one dude that could do it. And the problem with Texas is they get more shots at getting that one dude than anybody not named Alabama, Clemson, or LSU. Or what I mean to say is, or Ohio State, any team that hasn't won a national championship at the college football playoff, they get more shots at recruiting that guy, and they continue to miss. Like, the idea that Sam Ehlinger is your best player should haunt you as a Texas fan, because there's so many better football players out there than Sam Ehlinger. And then at USC, look, man, I can't make you fire Clay Helton. I thought that Clay Helton should have been fired after going 5-7 in 2018. They kept him on. He gets the one good win with the third-string quarterback against Utah. Turns out Utah ain't that good, right? They get beat in the Pac-12 championship, and then they get roasted in the Alamo Bowl by the same Texas team. So I can't make Mike Bone just decide to, well, bone Clay Helton the hell up out of there. And in this year, where, again, everybody wants USC to be good because they play in the largest television market in the country, and they are a blue blood. They have a history of being good. You want them to be like Pete Carroll. You want them to be like J.K. McKay and John McKay. You want to have your O.J. Simpson in the backfield, your Mike Garrett in the backfield, your Reggie Bush in the backfield. Clay Helton ought to be able to do that, especially in a place like USC, where you should be able to win all the kids in California. Instead, Mario Cristobal keeps coming down to California and take your goodies. So I'm with you on USC, except they got to pull a trigger. And what I come to find out is these dudes don't actually want to fire their friends. So Clay Helton got to do what Tom Herman did, which is remake your entire offense and defense if you want to, right? Fire the defense coordinator, bring in Todd Orlando, who was a retread from Texas, fine. Keep Graham Harrell. It ain't working. So, like, to Ron's joke, it's a fraternity. We following our fraternity around. We got to pay our dues. Zachary Purvis with another super chat. Most super chats we've had in like a year. As a Buckeye fan, I love how much you report on our team. Want to know your thoughts about Stroud versus Miller versus the 5 stars coming in. Who is the future? Okay. CJ Stroud was a late bloomer from Rancho Cucamonga, California. Now that's real, Ron. And showed out at Elite 11, won Elite 11 MVP, gets a late offer from Ryan Day and takes it. This is after they had already secured a commitment from Jack Miller coming out of Arizona. Difference between Jack Miller and C.J. Stroud is Jack Miller played behind a trash offensive line. So anybody that's evaluating him has to evaluate him from that standpoint. That said, as a 5-star, he's not in the final composite. I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud because I've seen him on tape and I've seen him move around, and he's basically what Justin Fields has become, right? He's that same sort of player. Jack Miller's going to have to show everybody that he's that dude, but one of those dudes is going to end up in transfer portal. I hope that answers your question. Let me see. The 5-star coming in. Oh, you're talking about Kyle McCord. He might not finish as a 5-star, but we'll see, right? I still need to see Kyle McCord at Columbus for me to make a really good evaluation on there, because, like, if C.J. Stroud wins the job next year, that means Kyle McCord is probably not going to have an opportunity to win it unless C.J. Stroud decides to transfer or go into the draft, or Jack Miller, one of those two, right? You look at what Clemson is, and you look at what Ohio State is. I picked Alabama to win the national championship in January. I'm still with that. Do you like Clemson or Ohio State to win the national championship in 2020?
I don't know about Ohio State. I need to see Ohio State play a game before I can make any sort of.
It's Nebraska. What are you gonna learn?
So the college football nerds over there on their YouTube channel, real good. Go follow them, listen to them.
Daniel and Josh, good.
They were speaking into my ear, and they say that if there's any team that was built to beat Ohio State, it was Nebraska. So I'm like, okay. I'm giving Nebraska a chance, but because first off, I've been thinking about Ohio State as you remember the movie The Running Man?
Oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, tight suits.
Yes.
Yeah, my man with the game show host.
Yeah, so the Big Ten is basically the running man. So you have Ohio State as the titular world's most famous man, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then a whole bunch of hey, yeah, I remember that guy.
In Carl Weathers in
That's
that
Jim
movie?
Brown. Jesse Ventura. Yeah,
Oh,
that's him.
the body
And then
is
you got
in
a
that
deep cut.
movie.
It's like Professor Tanaka. Yeah, go ahead and exactly. But it's a whole bunch of Arnold Schwarzenegger just roll through them. Cool. Yeah, that's the Big Ten. So I believe Ohio State could win a national championship. They probably are better than anybody that they've been ranked on the AP polls. I would just like to see them play a game first, because everybody else has already been through 7 weeks of football. I just want to see them play a game first before I make any sort of predictions about, hey, will they win a championship? So anyway, I'm going to go with Clemson because Clemson has actually played the ball, and they are playing they're playing the type of football that is very much, yes, see us in the playoffs. All of this is perfunctory. Yes, the point differential is going to be 50. Don't even tune in. Just don't even tune in.
Yo, man.
Meet us there.
Yo, man, I got to say, OU had a bye week, so I'm watching it in like the first quarter. And Georgia Tech's feeling pretty good about themselves because they're moving to football, right? And they get 7 on the board. And I'm like, okay, Jackets. And then I look up and it's 52-7 at halftime. I said, damn. And the way that I try to put this one in perspective for most people is the punter's name at Clemson is Will Spears. So you can imagine when I see the dude with the 48 under center that I'm going, wait a second, did they just put the punter in at quarterback? They sure as hell did. And he went 2 of 3 for 13 yards, which means that the punter at Clemson threw for more yards than the entire Georgia Tech offense in the second half. Yeah. What Clemson is doing is already impressive, but it's even more impressive in the age of the COVID. Now, on the Ohio State thing, here's what I have to say to you. They returned Justin Fields. They returned perhaps cornerback 1 in the draft in Shaun Wade. They returned offensive guard 1, Wyatt Davis, in the draft this year, who is also the son of, I did not know this until I looked it up, Dwayne Davis. Do you know who Dwayne Davis is?
No, tell me.
Dwayne Davis is not only Featherstone in Necessary Roughness, saying, throw me the football, I'll catch it, but he is also Alvin Mack, looking across center, talking about, yes, I remember you. You stole my mama's purse. Look at me when I'm talking to you. That's his daddy. I was so excited when I heard that. That's his daddy. Because of course he made their offensive guard. Nasty, cheating, poking people in the eye offensive guard. Just that made me so happy to find out. So they got all those dudes, right? And then they got a bunch of dudes that you already know by name if you are in recruiting. And then they have perhaps the best collection of true freshman talent at wide receiver in the country. But they're not going to be able to put them on the field because Garrett Wilson is back. Chris Olave is back. They're going to be outstanding. They have Master Teague back there with Trey Sermon. Like, on paper, Josh Proctor, Owasso, stand up. On paper, they're the best team. Not just the best team like in 2020, but they are the most intact team from last year. You get what I'm saying? Like, most of the dudes that played in the Fiesta Bowl are coming back to play football this year. So, like, as much as I want to give everybody in the Big Ten a chance, how, Sway?
I would, especially because they all start playing at the same time. This is the question that I want to pose to you because I saw the polls released this weekend.
Uh-oh.
Was Ohio State with 0 games under its belt, no real out of conference games to sharpen themselves up. Out of the teams that we've been talking about for the past hour, who do you think they could show up to and beat completely cold? All of them right now.
Of the, like, playing in the playoff?
Yeah, I mean, let's say, okay. I forget Clemson, but like Alabama, Georgia, yeah. Oklahoma State, SMU, BYU, Ooh. Notre Dame, just completely cold, showing up. Who could they beat?
Everybody but Alabama. Georgia ain't gonna.
continue to think about that because I know one of the things that we talk about all the time
No,
is that what's a bad first game? BYU. Why is that? Because they're all 30 and they've been lifting for 15 years. It's a bad first game to go out there and try to
they
suss
also
out what kind of offense or defense you got.
they got the most efficient quarterback in football right now too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's even and man, what if they're good?
Yeah. Right. For me, it's still just Alabama, because like Georgia doesn't have a quarterback. They can't score. They can't score. I know they put up 44 on Tennessee, but they can't score. Like if I need Stetson Bennett to go get me a bucket, he can't go get me a bucket. That's how I picture that position, right? Zamir White can't go get me a bucket. Najee Harris can go get me a bucket. Mac Jones can go get me a bucket. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, these dudes can go get me a bucket. Georgia can't even trust George Pickens to go get them a bucket, and he's their best offensive player, right? Kearis Jackson is trying to become that dude, but he got the shackles put on him in the game against Alabama. I mean, you said throw Clemson out, but it's really just Clemson and Alabama. Those are the only two teams that they couldn't show up cold and beat the brakes off of. Because then you're just talking about talent, right? You're just talking about how much more talented are we than you. Like, as an example here, I'm coming up, going to grad school, covering high school sports for the Oklahoma, and I get sent out 2 hours south to Davis to cover a playoff game, 2A versus Millwood, right? So I got the Falcons versus the Red Wolves. So you got the mostly black school versus the mostly white school, and the mostly white school is running Wishbone. The mostly black school is running Texas Spread. I'm keeping my own stats because that's what you got to do at high school football games. I had 16 penalties for 157 yards for Millwood. I had 0 for Davis. Millwood beat them by 2 touchdowns. Why? Because they, quite frankly, were just more athletic than you. They could make all these penalties, make all these mistakes, and still run over and around you. Even as this Davis team you've heard me talk about many times, I enjoy watching them play football. Like, they run the bone the way the bone is designed. Like, they got their heads down, so they're only listening to snap count. They're not watching the ball at all. I know they play hide and seek with the football when they're running pitch. Like, it's awesome. And yet that Millwood team just showed up with better athletes than you. I think Cam Batson is the quarterback for that team. Played a little while with the Titans here. There are only 2 teams that match them in talent, and they happen to be 2 of the best teams in college football. Now, Ohio State somehow is ranked number 5, and I say that knowing that Georgia has a loss. But here's the thing that I want to run to you. You say you looked at the polls. Did you see who was at number 6?
Number 6. I had to pull it back up again.
Oklahoma State.
Oh yeah, no, of course. That's the thing that made me just. I shouldn't be so animated about this, about Ohio State being better than Oklahoma State, because honestly, I think they could. This is what I was thinking of whenever you were talking about Alabama being having a bad defense, and I was looking at the Georgia and Ole Miss games, and that is the more I put it as a math problem. The more as snaps approach infinity, the likelihood of a more talented team winning approaches 1. So, yeah, I know Ohio State's like better than Oklahoma State. That's fine. But to the most ludicrous degree that I've ever said this, Ohio State ain't play nobody. You can't put them on the pole yet until they play a game.
So the rules by the Associated Press established were, we start ranking teams a month out from competition because we have a preseason ranking, right? That's how that works. So they started ranking the Pac-12 as well. They don't start their season until November. I love rankings, and I love talking about rankings, especially when they're as lopsided as wonk as this, because that means that, the Associated Press, which goes back to 1936, has now a bunch of firsts. And one of the things that I hate about college football, and like about it to a degree, is tradition, because that's the way we've always done things. Well, the way we need to do things needs to change, okay? An American team needs to have an opportunity to play for a national championship. It needs to change. Okay? Not saying the WAC, I'm saying the American. But I would not be, it's not outside the realm possibility for the WAC, Conference USA, Mountain West, have teams that get to play for national championships, at least in the playoff, right? Because I want an undisputed. But when I see an Oklahoma State, and you trying to tell me that they played somebody because they escaped with their life at home against Tulsa, that they escaped with their life at home against West Virginia, I have a problem with you. Because you're going to tell me that Ohio State ain't played nobody, like Nebraska is going to give them a game. And, okay, dog. Y'all go right ahead. Y'all go right ahead and y'all believe that lie. I have watched too much college football. Yeah, nah, you want to believe in Nebraska.
No,
the nerds told you to believe in Nebraska.
The polls are just one big beauty pageant until they turn into a spelling bee.
In the college football playoff ranking, which doesn't come out till November.
That's what they are.
I mean, it's
just what they are. And I just want them to be all spelling bee or all beauty pageant. Don't mix the two.
Nah, I like beauty queens that can spell words.
I like them too, but they should be in a spelling bee or a beauty pageant.
No, they asked this stupid question
either talk to me about either the. I mean, this is not about the AP polls, just how we understand we talk about it.
Okay.
I want us to talk about teams like it's just a season-long power rankings, like who's good right now.
That's what the AP poll is.
As opposed to here's how they are theoretically better than somebody else, regardless of record. No, I mean, that's kind of what it is.
Okay, so now you're getting into my chief argument, which is I need a vote. Me specifically, I need a vote. Matter of fact, somebody clip this, send it out to Ralph Russo over at the Associated Press. RJ needs a vote because Arkansas is a better football team than everybody that's ranked 16 or better. 16 or worse, 16 through 25, Arkansas is in there. Because if you're watching the football that is being played, you are going to give some benefit of the doubt to the teams that have played games. I'm also not so much of a psycho that I'm going to leave Ohio State unranked and try to tell everybody they ain't played nobody. Well, hell, man. Like, would I leave Alabama unranked if they played a slate full of SCS teams? No, I'd be mad about it, but I'm not going to tell you they ain't played nobody. I'm also going to look at that roster, and I'm going to say, this group of 4 and 5 stars coached by Nick Saban might not be that good because they haven't shown me anything. It's college football. Until we start putting out together divisions, until we start having real playoffs that are bracketed, that's just what it's going to be. So I think you have a problem with how each voter interprets their own ballot and not necessarily with how we're talking about them. Because, I talk about them from... Yeah, well, I mean, a Rorschach test is what do you see, right? Not what do you think, what do you see? So it's not a Rorschach test because it's what do you think? I mean, you shaking your head, but it's what do you think about Ohio State?
Go on with your point, sir.
I'm just trying to be clear. That's all. I use Rorschach test as a metaphor a lot, and it's what you see. It's not what you think. What's that line that Aaron Sorkin put in The Trial of 7? I'm sorry. Can you give me a moment, friend? I've never been on trial for my thoughts. Now, what do you see? What do you think when you walked in here? I think that's... So you would leave Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State, Minnesota, and Michigan off of your ballot because they have not played a game.
Yes, right now for this year. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So Ron, that means that
give them a phantom ranking.
So you got 70 teams.
Say they're hovering.
Golly. So you would remove 27 teams from you filling out. You know what? To hell with it. You go ahead and you make that ballot. Let's bring that back on Wednesday. And I want to see what 25 teams you come up with. Because I'd be interested because everybody had to do that for at least 2 weeks, and it was not fun. Because it's am I really going to rank Coastal Carolina? It turns out Coastal Carolina is ranked anyway. Am I really going to rank ULL? Turns out ULL is ranked anyway. You're going to put them in there because they're undefeated. Now, what 2-2 team that's trash are you going to put in there? I guess I got to put Texas Christian here. They play games. So you're going to put Texas Christian in there before you put Ohio State. Oof. Could not be me.
I'm going to say, strength of that resume. Man. You see that? That's a strong 2-2 team.
My God. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Monday live stream. You can catch the podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do the live streams on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock Tulsa time every Monday. My best friend Ron comes to join me to talk about ballet and college football. Follow him on the Twitters at Ron of All Trades. I have deleted my Twitter account. See y'all in like an hour. Deuces.